see your war face.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Gator Games and Books, your home of all things science fiction and historical gaming in and around the great city of Savannah, Georgia. I'm Mike Baker, the Gator. I'm your host. We have with us, joining us again, we didn't scare him off, Mr. Brent McCoy. I can speak, really. Random dude again. I love it. Fantastic. Thanks for joining us tonight, Brent. We appreciate it.
Not a problem. I enjoy it.
So before we get too deep, it's been a little bit since we put a video out. Life happens. That's about all I'll say on that. But we're putting these out as often as we can, as often as we have quality content to put out. If you have something you'd like to see us cover, check out our website and then ask in the notes, and we'll be happy to give it a go. I think last time we talked about what did we cover?
We did Hail Caesar, I think.
We did Hail Caesar. Yeah, so we went 15 mil. Today we're going to go to the other end of the spectrum. But before we do that, I would ask if you've not subscribed to the channel, subscribe so you don't miss when we drop a video. And likes really help grow the channel, and they're absolutely free to you. Now, if you want to help keep my lights on, you can buy something from the store. We'd appreciate that. GatorGamesandBooks.com. And everything we're going to look at tonight, well, not everything. A lot of what we're going to look at tonight we've got in the store, but some of it we don't, because over and above selling stuff to keep my lights on, we support the hobby. That's what we're all about. So, Brent, you and Jim played some Spectre Ops this last weekend. Yeah,
we sure did. Also, Patrick came out.
Patrick Ortiz from Barnwell. Yeah.
Yeah, he came out. Had a pretty good, so the setup was basically, or at least Jim provided the models and the terrain, and so the theme was, I think, 2016 Morocco, 2013 Morocco. So we've got French Foreign Legion and Moroccan rebels. And I'm not sure the context of the conflict, because I didn't know that was a conflict until that day. So the more you know. But it was a pretty basic setup. It was our first game running Spectre, and our Jim and I decided a little while ago that was kind of going to be our go-to modern set of rules.
Yeah,
it's got some details to it that some people may not be interested in, and it does have some nuances. But I mean, given being a wargamer, I've learned that there are far worse. I would say worse. There are far more complicated rule sets out there that may appeal to some people versus me, for example. And it's always hard to strike a good middle ground with any miniature wargaming set, regardless of the era and scale. And so you kind of have to tread that water of, like, what do I like from these rules? Is it what I want? Do I enjoy playing them? Is it making me think too hard? If so, look at something else. I mean, but some people do look at it that way. You know, some people want charts upon charts upon charts of this, and this, and then some people want, like, maybe a few stat lines, and that's good, and it's, for me, I'm weird about that, because I do like some games that are pretty straightforward, and then other ones I like more detail, and I think that goes more so with the period. So for maybe, I guess my reasoning is, the later in the period you are, the more quality variety of troop types. For example, we use Napoleonics because we did that recently too. Napoleonics and Waterloo, I had Prussians, I had light infantry, I have standard line infantry, I have militia infantry, and then Chris, and that seems, just for the infantry, that's 3 different types of infantry. That's not including the skirmishers and all that. And Chris had even more, because he had British troops, the Brunswick troops, Hanoverian troops. He had Scots. All of them had different stats, and for the most part, if not stats, maybe some special rules that were different. And so I feel like it gets harder and harder to track, because your battlefield's expanding while also tracking specific units on the battlefield. That to me gets kind of overwhelming, and it's terribly slowed down gameplay. So that's always a tricky thing to do. Although I do love playing game at scale Napoleonics, there's a point where I'm like, I don't, just give me a bunch of the same unit and we'll go from there.
Right. Well, and talking about epic scale, I know Randy gets around that a bit, by putting little tags on the back of a lot of his units to kind of
Yeah.
note their stats. And this has always been, for me, one of the big debates between tabletop miniature gaming and tabletop wargaming. So you talk about Napoleonics, you look at a table of, say, black powder Napoleonics, or even Hail Caesar, and you've got, just ranks and ranks of figures, and you've got to squint and stare at the shield designs or the colors to remember what unit's which.
Right.
And this is one where, to be honest, a Hex Encounter war game is superior because you're going to have everything you need to run that unit right there on the counter. And it's one reason I keep going back to Hex Encounter games. I know Gabby and I played an old classic, an old micro game classic the other day, Rommel's Panzers. And you had the name of the tank right on the counter.
Right.
So, you didn't have to say, is that a Mark III or is that a Mark IV?
So
yeah, that is one of the challenges.
I think one of the pros to the miniature side of that is if you don't have the stats on them, there's that sense of flexibility.
Yep.
Because I like Randy, you said Randy brought the numbers on the not the number of the unit. Yeah, but that's like, what if the order of battle for that theater didn't have that unit, right?
Right.
And if you want to go with that historical route or that alternative history, that's or you could just ignore the name altogether. That's obviously an option. It's more so for me for the aesthetic. If anything, what I typically, and of course this would vary based on how I feel like would work, and also what my opponent was like. An example would just an example to track differences with units. This is even go with abilities. I tried this with you a while back, but using really small dice beside the unit. So, for example, I would write out like an index card. Okay, a 1 on a green dice, they're smoothbore muskets.
Okay. Right.
And then a 2 on a green dice is, a rifled musket. And then you go up that way. And usually for the sake of simplicity on my end, I don't typically like to vary the weapon systems on a game system like Napoleonics that much.
Right.
This is it's a model that's represented via different weapon. So obviously, like your Jaegers, the German light infantry or skirmishers, they're going to have different weapons, but they also look different. So you don't need to track them with a weapon die.
Exactly.
But like the Landwehr, the militia, and then the German Fusilier/Musketeers, which are identical in their look and armament. The only difference is one can go into skirmish at will, the other one cannot.
Okay.
And what I did with that was, because all of my Prussians have flags, all of my light blue regiments all of my Prussian regiments that have a light blue flag are always going to be my light infantry regiments.
Brilliant.
It's the only thing that I use for everything else. Unless I have a specific unit that I want to field, I denote a flag color for it. And that's just the way tracking. On the flip side of that, because we were talking about the simplicity and complexity of different stuff, you go to Spectre Operations. Now you get to you're on the flip side of that, where you have less models, but you want more from them.
That's right.
So now I was talking about I don't even like tracking different weapon systems on Napoleonics. But now we get to modern systems. We got an M4, a handgun, frag grenades, smoke grenades.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah, and you're like, oh yeah, you said you didn't like stat sheets. Yeah, I'll make an exception.
Well, and then here's the difference, and this is it's one of the things people, if they follow me any length of time at all, they know I'm all about the small game. And in 28s, I'm especially that way. I think 28 and 32 millimeter really lends itself to small-sided, 12 to 24 figures on a side, small table, get down in the gribbly type games. Now, don't get me wrong. I have put, the Lord of the Rings Army of the White Hand on the table in 28 millimeter. It looks amazing. But for ease of play and for ease of getting things painted, I like the smaller skirmish games. And to your point, yeah, they've all got different weapons, but if you get a halfway decent paint job on them, you'll pretty much be able to tell who's got what.
Right.
So that's pretty cool. Although a lot of the modern rifles are starting to look more and more the same. I'm sure some of the gun aficionados out there would be like, oh my God. But at 28 millimeter, they look a lot alike.
Yeah, I had a comment about that. I have a comment regarding that. These photos that you got here are of mine. We didn't get to use these. I really thought we were going to, but the two other gentlemen with us decided that they had a short time span, and I understand that. I thankfully didn't have nothing to do the next day, so I really wasn't in a hurry. But those two did. So we ran
Right.
through a basic game, and we were wanting to all showcase our miniatures. Now, unfortunately, Pat brought all of his. I didn't get a photo of his. I did get a photo of mine, of course, because why not? But anyway, these are mine. These are all specifically in-country models before
Yeah.
first version came out a long time ago.
Yeah.
So in this photo, at the bottom left, you have two elements of Rangers, but the second element's kind of off to the left. They're out of frame. Above them and to the right, you have the Spetsnaz. That's kind of center left of the screen. Above them to the top left is going to be some Western PMCs. To the right of the Spetsnaz that are in the middle, to the middle right, those are my CIA SAD boys, my Special Activities Division. I love to thank job on those guys. And then
Special activities.
yeah. But anyway, yes, that's why I call them SAD boys, because why not? Anyway, I'm sure they'd probably rather be elsewhere, but anyway, but going back to the point of
Isn't that a song? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys.
Yeah.
Oh, sad boys. Sad boys.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
but anyway, I mean, they do some law enforcement stuff probably illicitly,
Right.
but anyway, but going back to what you said about the weapon systems too, another thing that's coming a common problem for modern wargaming, especially if you do like sort of recent modern, I would say even as recent as like 2021 Afghanistan or something like that.
Right.
You have the problem with a lot of NATO countries sharing the same standard loadouts, and
Yep.
some of them sharing the same camouflages.
Yep.
And I use this. It's probably a bad example, but well, not really a bad example. But in this case, those are Rangers. But if I had this, I could also use them as normal troops.
Yep. Yeah.
And the problem with that is obviously now what I'm going to do to denote these are Rangers. If I'm using regular army, because multicam, or this is actually not multicam, this is OCP camo. I found that those are two different things.
They are.
Multicam is a civilian made one, OCP is the military made one.
Okay.
But anyway, at least I know that one of them is made by Cry Precision, which is multicam. And then the OCP Scorpion, which is what the U.S. Army adopted and most of the military now. Anyway, long and short of it is they look identical. And two, it was just unless you use some alternative means like the bands,
right?
The ring bands, them, that's how you would differentiate them. So when I got these painted a while back, I asked the gentleman that painted it. His name was Pete. I forget his last name. But he did a phenomenal job on these, as you can tell. I didn't do a very good job of photo, but I told him, I said, when I do these, I have a lot of Blue 4 guys, and typically a lot of them probably would share the same gear and camouflages. So what I wanted to do was when I'm putting them all on the tabletop at the same time, I wanted them to be able to be distinguishable so that we know that this is a Blue 4 team, but not the same as this team.
Right.
So if you notice, the CIA guys have the multicam or OCP, but they also have blue jeans on and t-shirts.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And very American. I told him, I said, make them. I mean, they're CIA guys. Make them American. I mean, like, make them as American as you can make them. Without making, yeah. Anyway, and then like the guys at the top left, again, not a very good photo to see it here, but those guys have a mix of multicam, woodland camo, because they're Western PMCs. They're not particularly like the they're sort of like a specialist version of them. They got an American. There's a guy in the bottom left, to the second from the right. He's got a blue baseball cap on. And then some of them are using AKs, some of them using like the more modern AK versions, some of them using M4s and the derivatives. Some of them have like marksman rifles, and so the goal again was to differentiate that. And like you were going back to is, unlike Napoleonics, where they wanted to be able to see all that, and you're pushing around a bunch of models, especially at the smaller scales. Yeah, I mean, them all looking the same is kind of the norm. And also, if you keep them all relatively armed the same, it then just makes gameplay flow easier. Well, this game you're having less or these games in 28, typically you have less models.
Yep.
The models usually have more flexibility in their capabilities. So an example being in Spectre's situation, I was building a list with this list builder that Jim shared with me, and I made a unit of Rangers, and they are all tier 2.
Rangers lead the way.
And but now if I decided any extra points I had, I could drop in some CIA guys or what other NATO faction I would want to use, and I can also rank them differently. And again, if I had put, let's say, regular army, and then rangers on the board, and they all had the multicam on or OCP, it would probably not only confuse me, but also confuse my opponent.
And we've got this, we've got the same issue in bolt action. The only difference between rangers and regular army is their motivation and training.
Yeah,
The equipment is essentially the same.
right.
And yeah, so I get that. And I know, like, for me, my ranger / army guys have a little bit different uniform than my airborne. And that's how I differentiate the two. So yeah, that's the challenge even at 28s. But again, 28s so lend themselves to skirmish. And I've seen that this game as well as Blackout both just really take off, and capture that whole skirmish aesthetic. So here we got the game rolling. Now, who's this guy here?
So
what were the factions, by the way? So we saw the town. Who's fighting over the town?
So we've got so Jim brought his Moroccan insurgency, I think it's called. I'm not sure what the term of the fight was, but anyway, we've got French Foreign Legion. We've got Moroccan rebels, I think it was. It may change some coastal town. I might go from Somalia to Morocco. I know Morocco is on the northwest, but I don't remember who it was. But anyway, so the force breakdown was the Moroccan rebels had, which Pat played. I gave him the choice of either one. That there was 2 elements of I think 5 men on the Moroccan side, with one of them having an RPG.
We'll see them, yeah.
And a 3-man command element, and then on the French side it was a 2-man command element, and then 2 other elements of 3 men, and then each one of those elements had a mini-me LMG. The only thing, we didn't use any special rules beyond the basic systems of the weapons.
Okay.
And some of the more like so, and I tried a couple of the different tactics too, because there's a multitude of actions you could take, and I'll talk to that as we play or go through. But so the opening,
I want to talk a little bit about the table before we leave.
Okay.
So I know you guys played at Savannah Lion Games, which is our local game store where we hang out and show a lot of games off. But what we do, and this is something for players to keep in mind. I'm always a big fan of people, buying and having their own terrain. I know people would say, well, you sell the stuff, Baker. Of course we do. But it also allows you to control the story that your tabletop tells. Right. I think players sometimes get so wrapped up in moving figures that they forget the rest of their table should tell a tale. And you guys have done a good job here. Now, I've played enough at Savannah Lions to know what's what. You've got a couple pieces on here that are from the Savannah Lions kit, but the rest of them, and that's brilliant. And then, of course, you've added in your own. So, even if you're just starting to build your collection and playing at the local store, if you're playing something like, Spectre Ops or Blackout, and you want to try and give it its own feel, take a couple pieces of your own and mix those in with the store scenery and get more mileage out of it. So that's really cool. That hill's the hill and those trees are definitely definitely Savannah Lions.
We probably fought over them in other games.
I was gonna say, I think I remember hiding Shermans and or Stugs or at different times in those trees. So there we go. But so it was the French versus the I think it was the French versus the Moroccans. I took some time while you were talking. They're apparently Morocco has been restive for a long time, and France apparently had a little different relations with its colonies than the Vietnamese, where of course that was a very nasty ending. By and large, the French kind of let their colonies go with a pretty light hand, from what I understand, and so France has maintained a little bit more cordial relations with them, and has provided a lot of support for the legitimate governments. And that's what's going on here. There's apparently a breakaway region surprise that wants to break away from Morocco, I think West Morocco, but you can look it up on Wikipedia, which is what I did. But the French are not above sending in special forces, specifically Foreign Legion, to go take part in operations. So this is one of these French troops here.
Yeah.
And how can we tell he's French? He's not running.
Well, yeah, that too. But he has a FAMAS, which you also can't see in this photo.
Right.
So Jim had a mixture. I think the French Foreign Legion didn't really use the standard loadout. I could be wrong, but all of the models were French, but there's some of them are using the early M4 carbines.
Okay.
But I think the French Foreign Legion, I could be wrong, but I think they're kind of like the Marine Expeditionary Force when there was a crisis to the first one to get there.
Pretty much. Yeah.
And anyway, in this shot in particular, I had moved a 3-man element up, and the point of view here was there was some Moroccans just on the other side of the field, and I was going to wait for them to come out.
Come out and play.
And and just to the right of that, you can barely see it, but there's a base on the bottom right touching that building.
See that?
That is the other gunner, or the mini-me gunner, and then there's also another rifleman on the other side of the building just to the right. So they're spread out, and there's 3 different angles that they're covering, which sounds cool, but it backfired when the enemy got here.
What is that Mulch said? No plan survives contact with the enemy. Real quick in Spectre Ops, and I don't have the rules up in front of me, but is there a command distance that you have to keep a group together?
So there is. So the way it works is depending on the training level of the unit. So for example, I think these are veterans. So they have a spread of 5 inches from a unit within their unit. So they have to stay within 5 units of another model in their squad.
Wow.
On the other side, the Moroccans were all militia. They have to stay within 3 inches of another model in their squad.
Okay.
So they can daisy chain if they'd like to. And there was something that came up in this game, which I'm glad it did. It kind of clarified some things, and we'll get to that when we show the photo. But
all right.
But in this instance, I think I started first. I moved up guys, and the way the command system works is the order system. It's sort of like you have a pool of points,
right?
And the pool of points generate based on how many models you have or how many squads you have. If you have a commander, and then the first 3 turns, they generate another one. So each element within your force generates 2 momentum. So they think of these as like a pool of resources you can spend at any point on your turn, or even during an opponent's turn during their activation. And you could, in theory, take all of the points you have and spend them all on the same models, the same squad. So you can take all the points generated from all of the units and throw 1 squad in the middle of the board if you want to. If you feel that crazy to do so, you can. But in this case, each squad generated 2 momentum. Then turns 1 through 3 gave you 1 additional momentum. And then a commander generated 1 additional momentum. So if you have a command element and a squad, they generate 3 altogether, because 1 being a commander and then it being an element in itself.
Okay.
And then after turn 3, it would go down to you lose that bonus 1. And then if a unit became pinned down, they do not generate any at all.
That makes sense. Okay.
So anyway, I started off with 8. My goal on this one was I think I spent like 5, I think, to get these guys up in here their way, and I kept the remaining 3 to react to anything that he may do with these guys.
So that pool is used both for actions and reactions.
Right.
Baron's War does something similar. Okay.
But so and the way it worked is I would have this total of 8 between my action and then the end of his action. So and it would reset at the beginning of my next turn.
Makes sense. Okay.
So that way I'm not getting a new 8 points on his turn on the bottom of the turn. So it carries over. So basically Pat will take a turn and I would spend 5 of my 8. I'd have 3 left over. Or I would take a turn, spend 5, have 3 left out of 8. Then he would take his action with 8 as well, spend however many you want, and I could react still with only up to 3 times potentially.
That's pretty cool.
And at the end of my turn, if I don't spend anything, they all go away, and then I start over again with 8. Now there is some loopholes of that with some commands, which are special rules. One of them I think is called tactical shift. So you spend a momentum to carry over extra momentum to the next turn.
Oh, nice.
And then there's one of the expansion, which I don't really remember the exact wording to it, but it's basically where you spend all of the momentum that you would generate next turn at the cost of not doing anything your next turn.
That sounds like it could work out very well or very bad. All right, let's go to the next slide here. We don't have a lot of slides, but let's keep it moving. So your shot here, we ended up with the there's the local, what I call the local militia. And they're behind the trees there, and then hiding out in the cat fields there. So and over by the trees too. I didn't even notice that when I first saw. This is the militia force.
this is where everything went bad already for the French Four. This is on my turn 2, by the way. So this is a very good one. So the guys in the behind the logs at the top lift up there, they had drew a sight line to the French guy, or one of the French guys that you saw in the previous photo. It was his buddy outside the building, and so unfortunately for him, those 5 guys could only see that one Frenchman. So he caught all the hate from those guys. And after several rounds of rolling, he bit the dust, unfortunately. It took 2 volleys, basically, because these guys, I think, were hitting on 10s.
Wow.
On D10. But it took a lot of shooting. They pinned him down originally, and then he got killed.
Go figure.
Right, yeah, after enough bullets. He tried returning fire. It didn't work out. He just was all over the place with his return fire. It didn't go very well for that squad on the left. My squad on the right did a little bit better because there wasn't quite as much hate thrown at him.
So it looks like so the next slide, I tried to group this according to your storyboard too. So the looks like the locals were doing pretty well. They pushed up. There's another shot of our valiant freedom fighters there.
Yeah, they
getting
are.
Them up close and personal. Yep, bringing the pain. And here they've moved up on you, I reckon.
Yeah, so there was only about one other building down to the left of that. There was about 2 buildings on each side of the road. No, I'm sorry, 2 buildings on that side, one on the other. And I think at this point, my second squad was pretty badly beat. I had one guy that was dead. Another guy tried to peek that corner and move to a better position in the middle of town so they could get a better vantage on them and reduce the amount of penalties we had at long range shooting.
Right.
In doing so, he got shot crossing the road.
I hate when that happens.
Yeah. So that left one poor French guy by himself on the other side of the road, which we did him a route test. He stayed.
Good for him.
Yeah, well, I don't know, maybe not so much for his buddies, but he stayed. I had moved my command element up to another building, moved further up beyond where the guys had all died at to get them out of that kill zone.
Right.
These guys Pat felt very, very brave with these guys. These were his ace in the hole, I guess you can call him.
Yeah. And so I hated that we didn't get pictures of Pat's troops because he paints. I think you told me the troops he has now that he brought with him, he bought pre-painted. But Pat's a really good artist.
Some of them were painted, and then I knew that some of them were painted and some of them weren't. I know these Chechens that he had were all his. I think that he painted.
I think so. Yeah.
And he did buy some apocalyptic zombies and stuff like that, and a few other stuff. Yeah. He had a lot of Red 4, like Taliban, Mujahideen, like masked criminal elements, Chechens and Russians.
He's channeling that dark side. But what I was going to say, and I've known Patrick for probably 20 years, give or take, and he's always been a solid tactician. And you can't give the man an inch.
I found that out.
Surprise! Yeah, yeah. He's just like, you're just like, dang. I mean, I've been on the receiving end of Patrickisms, and I can beat him, but I earn it. And I can lose to him in a heartbeat, and I've done that too. So yeah, he's like, okay, got him pinned down. Let's move up.
Right.
Wow. Okay. So I guess your guys were looking kind of like this.
This was my leftmost squad. So context for this was an aftershot, but this is basically the aftershot of it. So that's the poor guy that got winged crossing the road. There's another dude dead to the left you can't see, and then this guy, I think he caught fragments from an RPG later in the game. And they drove him over to a street corner trying to get out of here. That's the radio man to the left of him, the guy sitting down. And then the commander's behind him. He's got his arm up like, what do we do now? Not working.
Now, you mentioned, too, that the RPG variant that they had was not incredibly explosive.
I think it was like a 2-inch radius. And and the way that works in Spectre is that's kind of like an additional 2-hit bonus you get. So if you say, for example, for the sake of simplicity, on a D10 you're shooting at a target wherever they may be, and you have to roll a 5. And let's say the rule, like I would say the effect area of the RPG blast is a 2. So if you were to roll needing a 5, you roll a 3, you would still at least get 1 hit.
Okay.
If you were to roll like a 4, again, you still get one. I think as long as you can meet it with the AoE, you get 1 hit. Now, of course, if you get it right on the money, you hit a 5, then you'll get 2 people in the element. And as far as my understanding goes, and I could be wrong, again, this was my first game, the AoE ignores like the distance between figures.
Oh wow!
So if you hit a guy and he has an AoE of 2, or the rocket launcher has an AoE of 2, 2 men in that element get hit by fragmentation.
That's wow. That sounds kind of broken. Yeah, might want to
I
check
could
that.
be wrong.
Right.
I think the reasoning is so there's not a template on the board.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not, and it may be worked out based on if there's a model behind the cover as well, like a wall or something.
Right.
But like, for example, if there's the guy's 5 inches apart, and let's say one guy's on the corner and the other guy's behind him, and then the guy on the corner gets hit by the RPG.
Yep.
I'd imagine that if not fragmentation, the concussion blast from that guy getting hit with RPG would probably scare the living bejesus out of the guy beside him.
So do they have rules for throwing grenades as well and smoke grenades?
They do, which I never got to use. I don't think we use those. Frag grenades they have, smoke grenades they have, tear gas, stuns, and a multitude of other. And also they have the launchable versions of those as well. But I don't think we use any frag grenades in this one. But Pat was very happy to use the RPG.
Oh yeah.
The saving grace to that is he can only fire it once per turn on his action. So once he fired and missed with that, I was free to move around. Well, I say free. I use that term very lightly.
You're now free to move about the table.
I figured out that the RPG was the least of my worries in this game.
So going back to the action points, then, so it is other than the RPG, if you took you got your 8.8 action points that you can use. If you used 4 on a team, that team could fire multiple times. Then,
yeah.
Okay.
They can also take action to aim and fire, which increase. So the way the aiming works is sort of a double-edged sword. So the way aiming works is, to make it maybe another way around. I think aiming, and it's weird. Aiming increases, and I might be getting this wrong, but I think aiming increases the difficulty of the shot, but increases the amount of dice you get into the shot. I think that's the way it works.
That seems counterintuitive.
I could be wrong. It might have been something else. I know that one, and now I could be wrong. It may be where I think the more action points you spend additional to it, it decreases the difficulty of the shot. So, for example, if you wanted to make one good round of shooting and you had 4 points, you can do an aiming action and add the 3 additional to it, reduce the difficulty to 3, and then take a shoot action.
And then what's the rate of fire of most of the weapons?
Well, the rate of fire. So the rate of fire did not really necessarily play a role in the amount of dice you get. It plays an effect on, like for example, like morale and suppression. So LMG, for example, if you put an additional dice into it via momentum, like any extra points via aiming or something,
right?
It's like a sustained fire, and then it's only when you get a hit with those, even if it's a kill or not. They will then have to roll additional dice against their morale. I think it was.
Okay, so it sounds. So does the morale double as like a saving roll? If you fail a morale check, what happens? So
it's weird because you have morale that increases the difficulty of stuff, but then you have situational awareness, which really doesn't change. So situation. So the way it works is I'm going to shoot at. Let's say Pat is shooting at me. This is really what happened in this game. Pat shot at me.
Okay.
And in order for me to potentially not get shot, I take a situational awareness roll, which in all of our cases were a level 9. So I'm a 10. Now, if you're behind cover, concealment, whatever, or even I think body armor helps too, it decreases that number that you have to do. So if you're behind the wall and you have body armor, it decreases it by say 2. So instead of now needing a 9 or higher, or 9 or 10, you go down to like a 7 or higher. So anyway, Pat was shooting at me. He had a clear line of sight, so I had to roll a 9 or higher to not get hit by the shots. Of course, he didn't roll those very often. So then they would shoot. He would inflict hits. I would take that back. I'd roll a save, like a situation awareness. If I fail, then that's how many hits get. If I fail those, then he has a roll for penetration. And then basically, I think that's the way it works. If there's a pin to it, you have to roll. Does I just wing the guy, or do I actually kill him?
Okay.
And then obviously, the shorter the weapon, the higher that number gets at range. And then the for example,
Makes sense.
shotguns and some machine guns do better at close range, and they
Sure.
have a higher lethal or lower lethality roll. That kind of stuff. I'm sure I'm probably getting some of those a little mixed up though with that. I think Jim will.
I am sure folks in the chat will be more than happy to correct us on that.
But anyway, regardless, and we did have to talk about this as we played. Again, this was a learning game for all of us. So
Right.
But I think we worked out most of what we were doing to an extent. There's obviously
Okay.
going to need to be more practice in playing, which is what I would like to do in the near future again. Anyway, but yeah, my French Foreign Legion on this squad in particular did not do very well. My guys on the other side, they did a little bit better.
Okay.
They got to return to fire and inflict some casualties.
So these guys were giving you a bad time.
Yeah, this is the commander of the pirates.
I love it. Oh, so Moroccan pirates, of course. Barbary pirates. There you go.
So, from my perspective, from one of my guys, which I should have took a photo of. Maybe I didn't put it in there. But all you can see from my perspective is the AK coming out of the bushes.
That's nice.
It's really funny.
I didn't see that picture when I was loading, or I'd have put it in there.
I probably should. I should.
That's pretty cool, though. Yeah. It's like, where am I really? Yeah.
Yeah, here I am.
Right. And then here's some more of that crew crossing. Looks like they didn't get quite so lucky. They lost somebody. Now, when a figure goes down, does it stay on the table?
Well, we did it for the sake of tracking casualties.
Okay.
You don't have to, I don't think. I don't really think that was a rule that we really looked into. But we did that just for the sake of just why not? I mean, I would honestly,
it's good aesthetic.
I mean, we didn't have a lot of room to put it down anyway.
Sure.
Because behind us the table's being used, the other table's full of terrain, and then the sides was full of like aids and dice and all that.
Oh gosh, yeah. How big a battlefield did you play on?
4x4, I think it was.
And is that standard for the game?
I think so.
Okay, fantastic.
I think at least for competitive play, I guess it would be the best. Now, you could do scenario play too. I think for me, scenarios might be better at, especially cooperative scenarios for like longer games against AIs, which is what we also talked about. Would be better on larger boards because that way you can spread out objectives a bit further.
I was flipping through the Spectre Ops catalog, and I did notice they've got now the AI and solitaire play. That's a separate rule book. That doesn't come in the base rule book, does it?
I think so. I know that there is rules for AI play in the Frontlines expansion, which I also have the PDF of.
Okay.
But that also adds more rules for law enforcement stuff.
Cool.
And of course that's right up my alley.
Right.
And so I was and it also has more detailed rules for like civilians.
Nice.
And like reactions and stuff like that. And also like any clarifications to night combat, awareness levels, drawing attention, stealth.
Yeah,
stuff.
Let's pause and talk about that AI a little bit. But first of all, let's recognize your friend here with the RPG.
Yeah,
you enjoyed so much. But one of the things I found, and I'm seeing it in more games, is this whole AI/cooperative style of play. And I find that that's a great way to play with people who are either learning the game so that, you don't have a veteran player facing off against some poor noob who, whether or not the veteran's really trying to stomp him, may be intimidated saying, gee, I don't, this guy's been playing for 10 years and I'm just starting. Oh my gosh. So I think AI and cooperative helps with that. And I know for a lot of us that have wives that play, Gabby would much rather play cooperative on my side than play against me. And so having that option is really cool. It's also another good way to teach the kids to play. So, mom or dad and all the kids can get together and play against the game. And of course, one of the driving missions of both Gator games and of course our club, how do you get new people in?
Right.
And I think that's a great way to do it.
I think too, on your point, like cooperative play in games like Spectre, because there's so much stuff you could do that just give you so many cool stories. And of course, you can always do this, but the thing with Spectre, and I feel like it's represented in the rules, is the nuances we talk about are not inherently always bad. It's more so if just like if you just want to, if it's like a quick pickup game. I mean, you could do that with this game. But then the nuances of like the specific weapon armaments, blah, 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 you're probably not going to look over those very much. But if you're going to do a scenario game and you want to create a pretty strict, or I wouldn't say strict, but a pretty fluid narrative, right? Because you can always make a narrative between players in a game, right?
Yes.
But But the thing is we know where each other's models are.
Right.
When you do AI stuff, you don't know how they're going to react. You don't know what they're going to patrol to. And that creates this tension that you don't get with, I would say, a player, at least in my opinion, because I can see these guys behind a building. I can see these guys over here. My guys are pinned down. I know you can see these guys, that kind of stuff. But if you're doing like, and I think In Country did this too, with one of their game modes, was one of the first ones at least. They still may do it in the V2. They would have like acrylic tokens with like an exclamation mark on it. And they would move them around as unidentified hostiles. So you know there's somebody there, but you don't know how many, what they are, what they're doing. And you can do that easily with Spectre using their rules as well. And cool. I thought about creating scenarios where you may have like roving bands of like, or whatever your objective is, you may have like a random amount of, maybe cartel men, gang members, militia, whatever your op for is in that scenario. Right. And have them roam around, right? And have this token represent that, because it's a game. It'll be a little unfair to just throw them out in front of your like your players at the GM.
Yeah, I know Musket and Tomahawk uses a similar mechanic,
right?
For hidden units, and so does all of the 2-hour war games do that. Nuts, Star Army 5150. Yeah, so that's a great mechanic. It's a great mechanic even if you're playing one-on-one,
right?
Where we don't necessarily get to see where each other's troops are.
Or if you want to do a somewhat double blind where you don't show what your troops are,
right,
before until they get revealed. But what I was going to say is, and in this scenario of cooperativeness, you could have those tokens represent roving units, and you could easily create a chart, which they may have one made. I don't know. I didn't really look into the frontline ones a whole lot.
Right.
But you could easily make your own chart on a D10, D20.
Sure.
And say, okay, you've made line of sight with this token. Roll to see what they are. It's a group of civilians. It's a civilian. It's a group of insurgents. It's a insurgent. It's a technical if it's on a road or something, right?
It's a technical with a Dishka. You were in deep trouble.
Yeah. And so you could do that. You could do that. And it creates a sense of like, I don't know. And the same thing can be done too with like, I thought of ways that like if I'm gonna like some of the stuff I would like to do in the future is law enforcement themed stuff, like drug raids or whatever.
Sure.
And one of the things I thought about doing is whenever somebody is going to search an area for an object, they have to, in order to search that building effectively, they have to roll their situational awareness. So they need a to find a drug stash of something. Right. And so you keep doing that in each building, and the timer's ticking down potentially where the person that may own this stuff is going to be coming home soon.
Right.
Or if you're trying to detain said subject, and I notice I mean detain. I said detain. If you like one of the scenarios that I envision doing, just pretty simple, is using my mat, trees that Jim also provided, a couple of buildings, some like trailer park, like they have them off of Black Site Studios. I'm probably going to pick up some, but like some trailer houses, some fences, and a little bit of small scatter. And the goal is this: you have some civilians that are living in the area. It's like a family cul-de-sac area out in the country, but there's somebody there doing something they're not supposed to.
No,
so you can make the objective where they have to, their law enforcement unit player has to go in and search a building or look for said person. But then the civilians create this dynamic of like, if they see ununiformed officers marching in like formation down a road, or like a road towards their houses, like SWAT teams loaded for there, they're going to be a little concerned. So your whole situational awareness test for all these, and if they pass, now the people in the buildings are alerted because they're screaming, panicking, go get the kids, put them in such and such or whatever. And now you have to players like, well, crap, they know I'm here and I'm not in position where I want to go. Right. And on the flip side, if you want to go another way, you could also give the option of having plainclothes officers. But then you run the risk of them being underarmed if something goes, AWOL. So it's just something simple to go through some mechanics and use what I have too.
Right.
Because I do have a little bit of 28mm terrain, but I really want to do urban scenarios. There was one 3D printed building that I thought was gonna be cool. When I realized how large it was, it's 4 floors.
Oh my goodness!
If I did a scenario for that, it would the only part of the building, the whole map would be the building.
Right, absolutely. But it would, what a scenario, because now not only are you moving horizontally, you're having to track vertically too.
Right.
That would be just a hoot. I like it. I like it a lot. By the way, speaking of trailer park, trailer homes, and that kind of stuff, Bad Goblin Games stocks all that. I'll throw a link to their website in the description. But they stock all that. I think it's sized more for 32s, but you could use it with 28s. I'd have to double check their game scale, but they do it for their trailer park Warlords of the Apocalypse game. But they've got a butt ton of,
which is also historically accurate.
Absolutely, yeah, right. But they've got a butt ton of trailer park stuff and things that you would find in a, especially in a rundown trailer park scenario which is where you're going to often find your drug raids and things like that. And again, that's one of the things I think that makes Spectre Ops shine is not only can you play as on the Black Ops side, but you can also play, to your point, law enforcement, and it would make a fascinating scenario. And I've done it, and it is, you get the civilians out there, and especially if they start running around and getting in the way of lines of fire. Yeah. Now you got a lot more to take into account. So yeah, I'm looking forward to working with you on putting that one together. Yeah, that's going to be fun.
One of the things too that I also mentioned with any miniature wargaming, and we've run into that with Bolt Action before. Remember the Germans downstairs, American upstairs, who gets the bonus in a melee assault?
Oh yeah,
yeah. So that was confusing. So something I thought about working on too is if I do a scenario where you're having to move vertically via staircase, so much urban combat happens. There's some shootouts that happen on staircases, right? I mean, that's a choke point. It's a natural choke point in the building. Why would you not booby trap it or watch it with a firearm? So in this case, as a contingency, I thought about making a chart too to track a stack of units. So when a SWAT team goes in, or any combat unit that has any cohesion, will go in with somebody on the front of the stack, second in the stack, third of the stack.
That's a great idea.
Column. And so as we go up, obviously, if somebody wants to react on somebody moving through staircases, you would then track the first person probably going to get shot as the guy at the front of the stack. And then you work your way down depending on how bad that guy's shooting through those people on the stack. And
I'm more a fan of dropping a grenade down the stairs and calling it a day.
Yeah, true, but the problem is grenades roll, bullets will continue to fly and hit stuff, and there's a chance that grenades are good as cleanup. When everybody's wounded, then drop it, right?
Oh
no time. But
wow.
But if you want to make sure the job is done, obviously the best way to do it is to see it with your own eyes, right?
Oh my gosh.
But anyway, but aside from that, tracking the unit through the stack, because again, staircases are always going to be a hairy spot or gray area, because obviously as a defender, especially if it's a player, they're not just going to want to give up the staircase and let you come up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, it's just, and that was just something I thought of recently. It was like, how do you track units going up a staircase? Again, you could track it on a unit vent and a stack. So they clear a room, they decide to go up, then you put your units off in the little sheet that shows, okay, this is the stack that I'm going up the stairs with.
Especially on a man-to-man game like that makes, and even for bolt action, I mean, I know in bolt action officially the rules say you can pull any figure off.
Right.
But it would make a very interesting twist to say, okay, once you're in the building, if you're fighting your way up the stairs, especially if you were playing somewhere like, Aachen, Stalingrad, not Singapore, but Manila, where you got a lot of urban combat going on, that would be really wild. And then you got to try. Okay, then you got to make that decision. Okay, we're going to put Duflachi on point, because if we lose them, it's not the end of the world.
It kind of makes sense too, especially with teams that are specialists in close quarters battles. So, like, example is if you have a bunch of regular armed guys, like a regular rifle team in the U.S. Army, all of them are armed with a carbine. So it's not really going to matter too much in the stack about who's going where, because as long as there's nobody else in there with a specialist weapon, you don't want them to go first, right? Because if they get shot, then that's the end of the weapon. But with the trade-off to that is, if you track the stack, the stack, if let's say I get shot at, but then I react to them shooting, the guy at the top of the stack may have a shotgun. Well, we're going to treat everything and all the fighting in the stairway is going to be at close quarters.
Yep.
So weapon is going to be the best to fight back in close quarters. Right?
Right.
So that would make sense. Okay, the top of the stack is my guy with the shotgun and heavy armor. And then he might have frags or flashbangs. And then as you go up, the other opposing places, I want to react to them coming up the stairs.
Yeah.
Okay, so he reacts, he fails to hurt them or whatever. Then the other player reacts to them shooting at him. And now he's got, instead of shooting at you at close range with a medium rifle, which has worse stats, you got this guy aiming a Benelli M4 up there, loaded with like a buckshot. He's going to have a lot better day at shooting at you than you are at him.
Room cleaner.
Yeah. And,
nice.
And tells you, I think it would make it also adds aesthetic to it, right? Because, you know, modern militaries and even law enforcement don't usually fumble up and down the stairs. There's a method to their madness.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And alternatively, you could just say the opposite, where like the Red 4 units, they may not have training. They don't do that. So they get intercepted up and down the stairs. They may not even want to go with the buddy. You know what I mean? So
right.
But I mean, I think for the fairness, I would think if I did that, I would have to do it for both sides, just because there'd be too many things nuanced that like gaps in the rule system that do that. I just think that stack system, if you want to use it, would be easier to track combat on the stairwell. Because again, a big part of urban combat is not only the fighting in the city, but in the buildings themselves. And if you're a defender and your objective is to defend the top floor, you're going to make sure that everybody that gets on that stairwells, all of them are going to pay in blood. And you want to make sure, and it also kind of gives like a gritty nature to it too. Like it's very close and personal. But anyway, I see like I might be going on too long for that subject.
you got just a little bit warmed up. So yeah, but you know, I mean, I'm glad you're excited. I had hoped to play to get there Sunday with you guys, and just was really we Sundays are sometimes a die roll, and this one ended up being a family day. You know, we went to church, went shopping, and but you know, I really, and of course you guys were still fleshing the rules. I did download it. If you guys noticed when I dropped the first slide here, there is a free set of demo rules. If you want to dip your toes in, it's got a quick play guide. You just got to provide your own figures or whatever. So, and that's free. So I actually just downloaded that from their website. And I'm definitely going to take a look. Like I say, I've had some modern guys that I bought off of a Warlord sprue sale years ago. I think I've got 100 modern guys because they were cheap. And it'd be nothing for me to throw a couple of squads together. But going the other way, and of course the other game that you and I were talking about, and it you know, I get a lot of these confused, but Blackout is another one of those where it's really it's the same mechanic. It's individual figures. I don't know if you can do this in Spectre, but in Blackout you can actually lean around a building and shoot at somebody. You can
that was a holdover from In Country. It was what they call I forget the name. It's kneeling, but you can double stack two on corners.
Right.
So, for example, if you have a model that's peeking in a corner, you can touch the base of the other corner, and then both of those are leaning. So one kneels and leans, the other one stands. Right. So you can get both of them shooting around a corner.
Yeah.
I know In Country did that, and I don't know the guy personally, but I know the guy that owns made Blackout is veteran owned, and I think that was something that they really wanted to add because it adds aesthetic too. It just makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. If you watch any kind of footage at all, and if we've gotten anything in the last 10 years, we've got a lot of footage of what it really looks like on the ground when guys are doing stuff, and that's one you see a lot. You'll see people just stick their gun up over the cover and shoot. So to have that option is really kind of cool. So I've got this game, got it in stock, been in love with it for a while. Of course, my wife will tell you I love all the games, but that's that's our
universal problem for most gamers.
Yeah, but I really like my skirmish games, and I had followed this for a while, and I found that I could get it in stock. I'm like, heck yeah! So I started working on mine this weekend, and this is all the figures from the starter set. I've got both mechs. Gabby laughed at my UN mech because it came out it's not exactly level, but it's also, I just say it's in a dynamic pose. And then they have a lot of figures, and this is probably my only critique of the figures is they have a lot of guys standing on one foot.
Very dynamic pose.
Do what?
It's a dynamic pose.
It's a nice dynamic pose, but it's a pain in the rear when you're trying to get it to stick to a base. So in some cases, I've put some bracing there, and I'll just paint that up as a rock, and you won't even know that it's anything's going on. But it gives the figure some more stability.
Something you could try, of course, it would take a little bit more care, is something that I saw with Pete that painted my in-country models from the previous slide.
Yeah.
They were all made with like I would say like an early not soft resin, but like it was a very high quality resin, but it was kind of brittle. So what he did is to not break them and make them easier to base. Was he took a little pin needle and drilled a hole in their foot and stuck them to the base
Yep.
with that little copper wiring, and then glued it that way.
Mine, like I'd shatter the leg. It's called that's a technique called pinning. You see it a lot. You used to see it a lot on some of the multi-part metal models because they come apart on you. But what I did that, and then to attach them to the bases, I made a mixture of quick grip and super glue. Because resin's got to have super glue, but the quick grip is a tacky glue, and so it tended to hold the figure in place better than just straight super glue. And so that worked. Once I started with that mixture, everything really went together pretty good. The figures are all single piece casting, which is my personal favorite. I know some folks really like the multi-model and customizing down to the last shoelace. I could care less. Let me get my figures on the table and play a game, guys. The mechs are multi-part, but again, they go together pretty intuitively. So that was pretty cool. But like I say, that's on my site. It's kind of the same theme. Single men. I know when I first started looking at Blackout, what gives it its punch is it's set ground combat wise about 40, 50 years in the future. You've got drones, you've got mechs. I think it's going to be real interesting as we watch this war in Ukraine to see how many war games begin to integrate much more drone warfare into their modeling. I know, 40K, the Tau had drones in the one that Warlord did for a while, Beyond the Gates of Antares, which it's still in print, but Skytrax has it. Everybody's got drones in that game, and I think. The next round of modern combat games, you're going to see a lot more drones, and it's going to be just interesting to see how the gamers choose to, if you're going to do modern or near modern combat, how the gamers choose to address that. By the way, the walkers in Blackout are drones. They're not manned. They're combat drones.
Let me ask you this: what scale is this game? Is it 32 or 28? I thought it said 32 on the box.
It is 32.
Okay. Because I thought about playing this game with the models I had, but they're all 28s.
I mean, if you want to give the rules a test drive, why not? Use your 28s.
Yeah, but I can get better cover because I'm lower to the ground.
Well, and of course we know that every man ever made is exactly the same size, right?
Right, exactly. That's how it works in the Army. We know that.
Right. I think 25 millimeters is equal to 6 feet. Do you really want me to do the math? So
that's what you pay for.
No, that's what my clients pay me for, is to do math. So I guess if you go to 32, by definition, you've got guys you're adding another, 28 millimeters, 6 feet. The 28 is the standard. So you add 4 millimeters. You're adding another 1/7. So call it.
So you're telling me my 28s to be short kings? Is that what it is?
That's pretty much, yeah. These guys are probably coming at about 7 foot or 6 and some change.
My guys would be like hobbits running around on the battlefield.
Not quite hobbits, hobbits, but yeah. But anyway, so great game, kind of in the same, the same vein, same mechanic. Matter of fact, I think the area of effect weapons in Blackout works similar to the ones you described in I
love these sculpts, by the way.
Oh, they're gorgeous.
I will say that the guys that I think it's Goon Squad, I think is the name of them. I think that's the name of the company that makes them. They do a fantastic job of sculpting.
Yeah.
I think Jake Rose too, which is that demos this a good bit for them. A while back when they owned In Country, he personally got a SWAT squad made specifically for him.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, cool.
If you guys, and I know gaming, especially in the Southeast, is a pretty small community. So some of our listeners may have heard of Jake Rose or know him, but I'll tell you, if you see him demoing, and he's been doing a lot of demos for Blackout, and if you get a chance to play with a man, he's a great fella, real easy to work with, real patient, and just loves the hobby.
He's a very nice guy.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I've got a bunch of books in my library that he gave me, historical books, where he was
Really?
cleaning
Wow.
he was cleaning out his library, and he said, "Who wants some historical books?" And I'm like, "I can always use more books for the library."
Right.
So of course now I'm putting some of them in my online store to sell as used books because I've read them all. But there's a little bit of that backstory. Something else, if if you're wanting to do um wanting to do I keep drawing a blank on the name.
Spectre.
Spectre. Yeah, if you're wanting to do Spectre, it's been a long day. If you're wanting to do Spectre, of course you can use a lot of the figures now. Wargames Atlantic has kind of gotten into the business. They've got your operators, and you can see there they've got them everywhere from kind of casual to fully kitted out. They've got your agents, and the agents too would be really good for a Men in Black game. So if you're playing, I've seen agents in play in Xenos Rampant or Future War Commander. If you need some agents to fight the aliens, these guys are really good. And then on the other side of the frame, and I know Brent, you were talking about having civilians, and you asked a really good question. You asked if the civilians could all be unarmed. I have no idea.
I would say this though. Speaking of going back to using these for or any modern combat, but you're talking about the agents. Another scenario just drawn off the top of that is like ground branch CIA guys going into this country. They're not necessarily fighting armed combatants. They're just trying to steal something, kidnap somebody, whatever.
Exactly.
And you got these VIP guys protected by these agents, and then you hear about the angry mob hears about U.S. troops on their soul.
Oh yeah,
this mob comes out here, and now it's like, are we still using the rules of engagement? What's happening?
Right. And I think that's and this one of the reasons I love playing with you. And I'm always telling players, do more than just a meeting engagement. You let your game tell some stories. And you just laid out 2 or 3 different scenarios using these 4 boxes, which is just amazing.
Right.
And I love it. Each box has 24 figures in it. They don't come with bases. You got to get those separate, or you use what you have on hand. But these would definitely provide a good mix. Like say you were talking about the drug raid. Well, definitely the civilians and survivors would work real well for that. Yeah. You got men, got women, and to your point,
his trailer.
That's right.
Get out here.
Here come them darn revenuers coming to raid my still.
I pay my taxes.
That's right. So yeah, I had to kind of throw these in, and I brought the Pulp Adventure guys in. It's like many things that are in my store. It's something I like. I think the whole concept's cool, and there's so many different rule systems you can use them with. Of course, Spectre, you can use them with Xenos Rampant, which is been a popular game. Although I got to tell you, I think I like Future War Commander better than Xenos Rampant as far as the die roll activation.
Well, I have to play that because you keep talking about it, but I've never seen it. So as far as I know, it doesn't exist.
Which?
Yes.
Either one.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Future War Commander uses a die roll activation real similar to Black Powder.
And that's 28, right?
Well, it's yes. So if you play it at the 6mm scale, it's individual tanks, or it can be individual tanks, or each tank represents a platoon. And then each stand of infantry represents anywhere from a squad to a platoon. At 6mm, at 15mm, it's an individual tank or it's a fire team. And at 28mm, there's a couple ways to do it. I've thought about doing it with like a 3 or 4 man team units, and then all the bases touching, and you play it that way. But they also have Future War Commander has an option, what they call Future War Commander Skirmish, and you can play individual guys. And at that point, you're activating based on your NCOs. So it's really one that scales up and down. Biggest difference between Future War Commander and Xenos Rampant is the combat values. I like Xenos Rampant has some really nice cooperative. There's that word, cooperative and activation rules for third party intervention in the middle of a fight. But their shooting values tend to be lower than I would like. They're shooting to hit. For example, their base is like 5, and that's for like basic infantry. I'm like, you ought to be at least 4. So, and there's some other things that make me kind of, and they use all different values, where Future War Commander, it's all pretty much 4+. So yeah, what would be fun, and we could even do this and show it on the channel, is play one game of Xenos Rampant, and then flip around and take those same forces and play Future War Commander, and just talk about the differences and how they flow. So this has definitely been a science fiction one tonight, right? So
Right. Well, we were straddling that boundary between modern warfare and then the
Yes.
future of warfare and then aliens.
Right. Well, and that's I don't know if anybody keeps up with the news much, but I mean they have pretty much admitted that there's aliens on planet Earth. So that's
So all of my conspiracy theory shows that I've been watching at 12 o'clock at night and
they're all
the History Channel has been correct.
They're all true. They're all true. There we go. So I hope you've stuck with us. It's been a bit of a long video, but me and Brent, we get together and we can talk. Well, we can talk for hours.
For a while.
For a while. Well, I mean, it's gaming. What's not to love, right?
Yeah. I know my time is shortened needs to end when a mic is quiet and goes, okay, I got to let you go. And that's his only word before he gets off. That's how you know Mike is ready. He is ready.
I'll try and be a little bit better than that, but yeah.
No, Brent, hey, listen, you said a long day. It's it's 11:24. I don't blame you.
Yeah. But this the channel's sponsored by, of course, Gator Games and Books. You're watching Gator's Garage.
Yep.
And
run by a very wonderful guy.
Thank you. And Brent, thanks for coming on the channel tonight. You are a lot of fun. I know last time we had you folks, we're glad to have you. So the next show we're going to do is probably going to be with Brent, Chris, and myself, and we're going to recap their last epic battle adventure, and that was Napoleonics, right?
Yeah, it sure was. It was a very very interesting game at that.
Cool. Don't get too started. Save some show for later, and we'll definitely be putting that one out in the next week or two. And keep watching. Of course, we plan to get back to Bolt Action. By the way, we are going to be at Skirmish Con at the end of the month, and I am going to be running Conflict 47 demo games. So look for our game on the schedule. It's a 4-person game running it late Saturday night. But we're official sponsors of Skirmish Con. Going to take the wife and kids and toss them in the pool, I hope, or something, somewhere far away from me. Right. But no, it's going to be fun. And I got to tell you, I think we went 2 years ago, and it's you'll hear me a lot talk about why I do what I do in the community. One, I love games, and I love the social structure around it too. Is gamers are wonderful. So when we took our daughters last time, it was like they had a room full of aunts and uncles. Everybody loved on them, and I can't speak highly enough of our gaming community and how it just loves on folks. So I could go on, and I could do a whole video on how gaming provides a very cool extended family in third space. And I might do that sometime. That might make a good discussion. So with all that being said, Brent, you got any more one-liners before we wrap up?
I wasn't prepared for that, so no. So it's probably good too. That again.
Fantastic.
Don't want to go past your bedtime.
Good. It's way past this old man's bedtime.
Any later past your bedtime.
That's right. That's right. But thanks for being on the show, Brent. Folks, thanks for watching. Again, subscribe to the channel. Give us a like. Give us a share. Share us with your friends. Heck, share us with your enemies. Just help that footprint get out there and help us grow the hobby and grow the shop.
Yes.
Good night, y'all.
Good night.